Hello, I'm Jennifer from the St. Louis County Library. Welcome to Resume Rescue. This series of videos will teach you how to create or improve your resume to aid in your job search. This video will focus on extra elements that you may want to add to your resume. To see the full playlist of all of the Resume Rescue videos, click on the link in the description. Now let's talk about some content that you could include on your resume, but you don't have to. So first of all, let's talk about a headline. If you choose to include this, it should be right after your contact information at the top of your resume. A headline is a title or tagline that summarizes your qualifications, and it should be no more than one line long. Think of a headline on a resume like you would think of a headline in a newspaper. You want to grab the attention of the reader and make them continue reading. So examples of this could include whatever your current job title is, a variation of your current job title to match jobs that you're applying for, or a general title that shows the career you're interested in, without misleading the reader to think it is your current job title. So this one especially really helps if we take a look at a few examples. Now, each one of these is a separate headline. They're not from the same person. So things like construction superintendent, executive assistant, medical office manager, that might be that person's current job title or a variation of their current job title. But these examples have given a little bit more information. Healthcare project manager with 8+ years in healthcare administration. So in this case, they're listing their years of experience as well, which could make you stand out amongst the other candidates. Detail-oriented journalism student seeking broadcasting internship opportunities. So this is a student example, but what this headline shows is what this person is looking for. So they are not saying that they have broadcasting experience, but that's what they're seeking. Salesperson with experience in retail sales and customer engagement. So again, this person is pointing out some of their top traits in their headline, as well as their current job title. Next, let's talk about a summary. If you choose to include this, it should directly follow your headline. You can have a headline without a summary and a summary without a headline, but they usually go hand in hand. So most of the time, if you include one, you'll want to include both. A summary is a brief paragraph or bulleted list that describes how you can use your skills and experience to make the company that you are applying to better. So again, brief is a key word here, but you do want to emphasize your key qualities and your best skills so that they will continue reading the rest of your resume. This is different than an objective statement. Please do not include an objective statement. So you may be thinking, what's the difference? Let's take a look at an example. Here is an example objective. Sales representative seeking a challenging position that will use my skills and provide opportunities for growth in a dynamic and rewarding company. If you take all of the fancy talk out of that, basically what this says is my objective is to get a job. Let's read the summary now. Ambitious sales professional offering 10+ years experience in customer retention and aggressive revenue growth. Conquers goals and quotas through a keen awareness of the human buying motive that allows for quickly overcoming objections. Used historical data and customer trends to reach new customers and grow territory by 24%. Innate ability to work independently or as a member of a cross-functional team. So in the summary, this person is listing what they can do for the company, how they will make the company better. An objective is what the company is going to do for me, give me a job. The summary is what I'm going to do for the company. Including an objective statement is also something that can make your resume look outdated. Let's look at a couple more summary examples. So in this example, the resume writer chose to use bullet points instead of a paragraph, which is a completely legitimate choice to make. And this is another paragraph example. Now, all three of these summary examples look really long, but that's mainly because I've increased the font size to make it easier for you to read in this video. Your summary probably should be no more than 4 or 5 lines long on your actual resume. Next, let's talk about a skills section. If you choose to include this section, it should come either right before or right after your work experience. How do you decide that? Well, whichever one is more impressive to employers should be listed first. So if your most recent job is very similar to the job that you're applying for, or it's very prestigious, you're probably going to want to list your work experience first. But if it has been a while since you've had a job in your field, or if you're trying to break into a new field, your skills section might come before your work experience. This section is basically just a list of skills that you have that pertain to the job that you're applying for. This is a really good way to include skills that you have that may not be listed in your work experience section because you have acquired those skills outside of your job. So these are a few examples. You should not include this many. Sources are split on how many skills to include, but most of the sources say within the 6 to 12 range is kind of where you want to be. You will notice that none of these skills start with proficient in or excellent at or have any of those kind of filler words. Those words are just taking up space on your resume. They don't add any value, so leave them off. So some other optional sections that you could include on your resume are accomplishments. So accomplishments would include things like you increased sales by 15% at your company, or you saved your company from bankruptcy because you found a discrepancy in the books, or something like that. Those are a little bit of extreme examples, but you get the idea. You only want to include this if you have more than 2 or 3 accomplishments, I would say. If you just have one major accomplishment that you want to make stand out, I would include it with the work experience that it goes with, and you may also want to mention it in your headline or your summary. Volunteer experience. Almost any time you have volunteer experience, it's worth putting on your resume. There are a couple of exceptions to this. If you went somewhere one time for 1 hour to volunteer, you're probably not going to want to include that on your resume. You also want to be careful about any volunteer experience that is religious or political in nature, because that could be divisive amongst people who are reading your resume. But most of the time, having volunteer experience reflects positively on you. Training. Let's talk about how this differs from your education section. Education is much more formal. It's like high school or college or trade school. It's more of a formal education. Training would be things like workshops or classes at the library, things that took a short amount of time and aren't necessarily something that produce a transcript or a degree to go along with them. Certifications and licensure. If the job that you're applying for requires you to have a certain certification or a certain type of license, make sure that you list it. And that you may want to include towards the top of your resume as well. So for example, if you're applying for a teacher position, you need to be certified to teach. If you're applying to be a truck driver, you need a commercial driver's license. If you have a certification or license that is relevant to the job that you're applying for, make sure you list it. Awards and honors. This is similar to the accomplishment section, but a better example of this would be Employee of the Month. Or if you're a student, the fact that you were on the honor roll. Hobbies and interests. You want to be careful about including this section because it could make your resume seem dated. So you don't want to include it if the hobbies and interests have nothing to do with the job that you're applying for. But this section might be worth including if you're a career changer or if you don't have any previous experience in the field where you're applying, to express your interest in that field. And finally, languages. Speaking more than one language is almost always a valuable skill to include on your resume. But you don't want to include it if you only know how to say a few words or phrases in a language. You want to make sure you're at least conversational, if not fluent, before you include it on your resume. All of these sections that we've been talking about are optional, so how do you decide if you should include them or not? Only include the optional sections that are relevant and will enhance your job search. So if you're applying to be a customer service representative, your commercial driver's license is not relevant, so you should just leave that section off. Do not include sections just to fill up space on your resume. Make sure that all of the content earns its place on your resume. In the next video, we will talk about how to fine-tune the content of your resume. Thank you for watching. There is a link to the full Resume Rescue playlist in the description, as well as a link to upcoming technology programs at the St. Louis County Library. Thank you for supporting the library. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel.